Hello team and welcome to another ATP Geopolitics video with myself, Jonathan MS Pearce. This is a Ukraine War news update, third part thereof for the 18th of November 2023. My son won his football match 4-0, so I am relatively happy to now continue where I left off earlier on. Let's go and look at what we have to say about geopolitics concerning the Ukraine war. First thing is Ukraine aid from the US won't be approved for a month, maybe longer. I talked about this in my military aid segment. Well, this is Bloomberg saying new US aid for Ukraine risks slipping to mid-December and maybe longer, casting doubt on Washington's ability to keep up the flow of weapons that both the Biden administration and Ukraine say are vital. Right. That is an absolute travesty, really, in terms of those who are really vocal about the support that Ukraine need from particularly the US in the position the US are. Now, Randy Mott here gives some added context, and I don't know enough about the details about what's being talked about here with how it works in terms of US politics to get a grip on this, but I'm going to read it to you anyway. It says, major news of US aid to Ukraine. Both the Senate and House have announced that they are going to conference committee on the NDAA. Both houses passed Ukraine aid in their versions of the Department of Defense authorization bill, although the Senate number was larger. So, conference committee, not quite sure what that's all about. Yeah, so I've just had another look for the details about this. Can't find what this pertains to. Anyway, he says this means that Ukraine support will be part of the conference agreement after some other differences on other issues are ironed out. While the aid authorization has been delayed, it is now on track for passage. So what I can gather from this is that it will pass, just not in the time frame people were perhaps hoping. We should push House members to accept the Senate number in conference. The House conferees were named weeks ago, and now the Senate conferees have been appointed. The House members are as follows. Only one voted against Ukraine aid on the House floor, and he lists them there. Who was the no vote? That was Jim Banks from Indiana, by the looks of it. But yeah, I'm not 100% sure of the details, as I say, of what it means to be to have a conference committee. So let's have a little look into that, because I think this is really important. The idea is that a shutdown has been averted, so there is stopgap funding. Senate's passed a short-term spending measure late on Wednesday night, extending Congress's deadline to fund the government by more than 2 months. Joe Biden is expected to sign the measure. The continuing resolution, passing 87-11 in Senate, is Congress's second funding patch since late September and will keep spending at fiscal 2023 levels. Represents another lifeline for lawmakers who've been unable to agree on a fiscal 2024 spending plan. So this was good bipartisan work there, although there are 11 conservatives voting against that. There are also elements that haven't been agreed on, of which one is the NDAA, the National Defense Authorization Act. So Wednesday's vote was delayed for much of the day as Senator Roger Wicker, Republican Mississippi, ranking member of the Armed Services Committee, held out his support to force a vote on instructing conferees for the fiscal 2024 National Defense Authorization Act. The House and Senate passed their respective versions of the defense policy bill back in July, and the House moved to go to conference in September. Numerous energy and environment policies hang in the balance, including nuclear legislation and climate rulemaking riders. Senate leaders had not put the motion to instruct conferees, a largely symbolic step, on the floor, frustrating Wicker, even though armed services staffers have been pre-conferencing for weeks. Quote, I'm very disappointed in Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer for not bringing the motion to go to conference and the motion to instruct to the floor, Wicker told E&E News last week. This has been delayed for weeks now, and the time constraints are now critical. It is really critical. So I don't know why or how Schumer is somehow delaying things. He's obviously Democrat, New York. House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries, as well Democrat, but a congressman for New York, said Wednesday that House and Senate leaders need to immediately begin discussions to decide top-line spending levels for fiscal 2024 bills. In a press conference following the Senate vote, Schumer said, "We need top lines for the fiscal 2024 package," and that bipartisan negotiations were ongoing among appropriators and the 4 leaders in the House and Senate. Jeffries said the bill would be written to the levels prescribed by the debt ceiling agreement that congressional leaders and Biden agreed to in June, avoiding the steep cuts that some conservatives have been demanding. Quote, "The only path forward is a bipartisan one where we proceed with the appropriations discussed amongst House Democrats, House Republicans, Senate Democrats, and Senate Republicans in a manner consistent with the Bipartisan Fiscal Responsibility Act," Jeffries said, referring to the debt limit deal. "It's time for action." On Wednesday night, Murray, the appropriations chair, similarly urged agreement on top line funding levels. So it's all a bit confusing, bit of a mess. I don't know exactly what that means, other than they are going to be discussing this post Thanksgiving, and it doesn't seem to have been done quickly enough. As Randy Mott seems to indicate, there will be, it appears, general consensus on the NDAA, as in the National Defense, National Defense Authorization Act. Sorry, I forgot my words there. So there could well be a bipartisan agreement, although there's a difference between the House and the Senate as to how much money should be authorized. I don't know. It's so frustrating, and I'm not too sure of the mechanisms here of how that all works. So perhaps someone could enlighten me. Hungary's completely blocked the discussion of a new package of sanctions against Russia, according to Radius Svoboda, Svoboda, journalist. That's again really frustrating. Hungary is playing at being the spanner in the works for anything positive for Ukraine as far as the EU is concerned. Turkey seems to be on the way out of NATO and out of preferential treatment by the EU. Obviously, this is speculation from Rene Duba here, but Turkey's help to Russia in obtaining sanctioned components for its arms industry may make Turkey itself a candidate for sanctions. So Turkey, like I've talked to you many times before, is playing both sides here. They are still trading with Russia and still taking a lot of Russian money, whilst at the same time giving broad support for the Ukrainian military aims. Baykar, one of their defense manufacturers, is supporting Ukraine overtly. Turkey are really important. The Bosphorus Straits is super important. And some of the rhetoric coming out of Turkey more recently has been very positive towards Ukraine. However, there are still these issues. German Chancellor Olaf Scholz is poised to deny Turkish President Erdogan's latest request to purchase Eurofighter Typhoon jets, intensifying diplomatic strains, according to Bloomberg. The meeting in Berlin on Friday is expected to see Erdogan seeking the removal of a block on the fighter plane sale to enhance Turkey's aging air force, a move likely to be met with resistance, despite Turkey's urgency to bolster its air capabilities. In response to Greece's acquisition of Rafale fighter planes, Germany cites multiple points of contention, including Turkey's acquisition of air defenses from Russia, military actions against Kurdish forces in Syria, and delays in ratifying Sweden's NATO membership. I mean, all of these are genuine points of contention. Turkey doesn't just have a history of buying NATO equipment; it buys Russian equipment as well. And you wonder what's going on with tech intelligence as well as it goes through Turkey. But anyway, tension, I mean, that can work both ways. If Turkey have both the Soviet kit, Russian kit and NATO kit, that information could go both ways. Tensions have escalated further with Erdogan's labeling of Israel as a terrorist state and his support for Hamas, contrasting with the stance of the US and the European Union. Quote, "This is a visit by a difficult partner with whom we are discussing a whole range of dossiers," remarked German government spokesperson Stefan Hebestreit. Chancellor Scholz is expected to emphasize Germany's position on Israel's right to self-defense, especially after the recent attack by Hamas, while Erdogan is anticipated to request at least 20 Eurofighter Typhoon jets. Germany's reluctance stems from broader geopolitical concerns. Obviously, buying 20 Eurofighters is superb for economics and the joint collaboration there in manufacturing that plane within Europe. However, there are issues that need to be ironed out. Now, French engineering company Alstom will leave Russia before 2024. French engineering giant is to sell 20% of its stake in the Russian railcar manufacturer Transmash Holding, TMH, by the end of 2023, Interfax News agency has reported. That's potentially good news in making it difficult for Russia to have the required expertise to keep maintaining particular industries. Their hydrocarbons industry is perhaps constricted, is unable to drill or store oil and gas I don't know, either at all or at the levels they'd like, or are unable to build new facilities, given that the world's leading experts in those industries have pulled out of Russia. So whether it be Shell, BP, ExxonMobil, whatever, they at the beginning of the war did indeed pull out of Russia, and that has left Russia in a bit of a bind. Well, this could be the same for their railcar manufacturing. I don't know. Now, Russian disinformation has been something I've talked about an awful lot recently. Since February 2022, in 6 countries alone, Poland, Hungary, Slovakia, Czech Republic, Germany, and Italy, in those countries, Russia has launched 13,000 fake news publications about Ukraine, containing more than 2,500 different fake narratives. And you can see here that there's a big drop down in October. I don't know why that is, but Russia has spread more than 13,000 fake publications about Ukraine in 6 European countries. The actual number of fake publications is even higher. Number of Russian fakes about Ukraine by months. Russian fakes about Ukraine by country. So Poland, 24.7% is the highest, then Hungary, Slovakia, Czech Republic, Germany, and then Italy. It's just incredible the scale of disinformation that is spread by Russia using, among many other things, platforms like YouTube and Twitter. So Twitter is embroiled in a massive hoo-ha at the moment. So Elon Musk has just come out and said, at the risk of stating the obvious, anyone advocating the genocide of any group will be suspended from this platform. Interestingly, that doesn't appear to be Russians spreading Russian genocidal rhetoric. That seems to get by completely. And what's this all about? Well, I reported that when, just to comment to that, Roman Yeremenko here says, except Russians, Russophiles, pro-Russian mouthpieces, and Elon himself, who have normalized and trivialized the genocide of Ukrainians, pushed Kremlin narratives, and heavily deboosted and suppressed Ukrainian voices. This is all absolutely true. What's going on? Well, there's a right hot mess concerning Twitter, and this is as a result of something I reported yesterday, which is this message. Well, it's partly to do with this, partly to do with something else. But Elon Musk said, you have said the actual truth when someone said this. Okay, Jewish communities have been pushing the exact kind of dialectal hatred against whites that they claim to want people to stop using against them. I'm deeply disinterested in giving the tiniest shit about how Western Jewish populations coming to the disturbing realization that those hordes of minorities that support flooding their country don't exactly like them too much. You want the truth said to your face? There it is. Now, whether there's any element of truth to this, one has to be really careful, especially when you're in a position of such power as Elon Musk, to be validating extreme views. And these are fairly extreme views, right? Now, the whole Israel-Palestine conflict is deeply, deeply complex. And as I've said before, there are issues on both sides. Although someone interpreted that as me saying I'm 50-50 on either side, I'm actually not. It just depends what part of the conflict you're talking about, what part of the rhetoric you're talking about from either side. I'm very much anti-Hamas, but pretty much pro-Palestine in the idea that they have a right to self-determination and a right to the freedoms that they're not being given by the Israelis. And so, but then the Israelis were horrifically attacked on the 7th of last month. And so there's all sorts of crazy stuff going on each side. So the point being here that Elon Musk seems to be picking one side and going pretty hard on that one side. But he himself has at times appeared to be somewhat anti-Semitic, right? Now, put that together with a Media Matters report that has just come out to claim that clear anti-Semitic views are being placed alongside adverts for massive companies like IBM, Apple, Oracle, Comcast, Xfinity, so on and so forth. Being placed alongside adverts being placed alongside anti-Semitic content, including that praising Adolf Hitler and the Nazis, right? So this has all gone nuts. And then Musk has to then come out and say, but he's only saying this because he's just lost a whole load of massive advertisers, right? At the risk of stating the obvious, anyone advocating the genocide of any group will be suspended from this platform. But that doesn't, I mean, there's so many parodies coming out, like taking the mickey out of this and looking at the double standards. Darth Putin's just done one saying it's all right. He's still saying our stuff because basically we're paying him or whatever. You know, it's just not a good look. Well, we've got this situation where now a whole host, as I said, of different advertisers have pulled out. I do have an updated list, which now includes the European Commission, I think. Yeah, here we can see that IBM, Apple, Disney, Comcast, Lionsgate, Paramount, Warner Brothers, NBC, Universal, and the European Commission is another one that has pulled out. Oops, where is it? Anyway, yeah, European Commission there. So plenty of companies are streaming away from Twitter again, and this will cause him to have a bit of an economic meltdown and try and stem that flow by, well, he's threatened to go thermonuclear in a lawsuit against Media Matters as soon as the courts open on Monday or whatever it is, he said. So split second, courts open on Monday. X Corp will be filing a thermonuclear lawsuit against Media Matters on all those who colluded in this fraudulent attack on our company. However, the problem is, when you look at the sorts of things that Elon Musk has been saying, he's not helping himself. He is broadly aligned with kind of what Media Matters is saying is happening on X. So yeah, it's just a hot mess. I mean, one good thing in Musk's favor is he has just launched an absolutely gargantuan rocket, although I think the latest is they've lost contact with it, which it would be such a shame for all those people that pour in their life's work into getting stuff like that up in the air. Anyway, Ukraine and Germany will begin talks on bilateral security guarantees. Quote, Germany is our reliable partner and one of the leaders in financial, military and humanitarian assistance to Ukraine. Deputy head of the Office of the President of Ukraine, Ihor Zhovka, has said. Good news, Germany again coming up with the goods for Ukraine. If only they could add Taurus. Just add Taurus. Just add water. Bit of Dave Dobbin for those Kiwis out there. 163 refugees arrived in Finland through the border with Russia. So I reported yesterday that Finland closed 4 of the border points. There was talk about them closing all of them. I think they've gone against that all the time being. Then there was a report that came out yesterday. The reason they did that is because there were these claims that Russia is motivating many illegal immigrants to pass through the Finnish border and cause social division in Finland. These are people from the Middle East, from sort of Persian area, from Africa, so on and so forth. They're coming through Russia, and Russia is saying, hey, you want to go through Finland? In the same way that Belarus is saying that about the Baltics and Poland. All this is to try and make these nations on the edge of Europe less stable. And there's a report yesterday that the Russian police have paid an illegal immigrant to, I think it was try and cycle through the border, and they were caught, and basically it appears that they were paid by the Russians. Well, here 163 refugees have arrived in Finland over one day through the border. Now, it's noted that there have been 335 refugees since the beginning of the year, right? So we get to the 17th of November yesterday, and you've had 335 refugees all year, and then yesterday 163. Wow. something has happened, and I'm sorry if you're going to present a bunch of hypotheses. The one that's the most probable is that Russia is behind that huge spike. There has to be some systematic thing going. You don't just have a random spike where you are effectively multiplying your well, it is. It's multiplying your refugee intake by about 163 times. It's like it averages about one a day prior to that, and then suddenly 163 in one day. So today, the suspension of the work of the southern checkpoints on the border with Russia came into force. That is from this morning, but it's referring to yesterday. So anyway, there you go. There's a number of different geopolitical nuggets for you to get your teeth into. Let me know what you think about the whole sort of, if you can be bothered about the whole Elon Musk Twitter thing, and how that might pertain to issues to do with Ukraine. I think it's more about double standards, about calling out genocidal rhetoric when it financially suits him because advertisers are pulling out. But when it comes to things like Russia, it's just let it go. It's no problem. Yeah, you can say that. It's just complete double standards. Anyway, thanks for watching. Please like, subscribe, and share. And I'm going to get on with the Frontline update.